Agenda-setting financial insight now with our commentary on Reuters Breakingviews. Today's top stories: the North Sea blowout hardly justifies a Total meltdown. Korea corners the flat-screen TV market, and how India coal could top the Sensex. With me is Robert Cole. Morning, Robert.
Hi, how are you?
I see this little play on the word Total.
Yes,
Very
it passes for a joke down our way.
This thing could blow at any minute. This is a sector reputational issue. Why is it overblown? Why is it overdone?
Well, we don't know. You know, it's all.
But that's the point your economist is making. The reaction so far looks excessive.
And we don't try and say that we know all the answers. What I'm trying to say is that as we look at it from the moment, it seems to us that the market reaction, while totally understandable for some of those reasons that you specify, looks to us to be overdoing it. Clearly, fears in the among oil and hydrocarbon investors about sort of deep sea blowouts are acute. You know, we only have to mention the word BP, Macondo, to get there. And so it is quite understandable, and yes, of course, it could get a lot worse. But let's remember this is a gas well, not an oil well. There is the danger...
what's the point there?
Well, if there is a leak, the gas goes into the atmosphere, not into the sea. It doesn't cause the kind of environmental damage.
So it just makes the hole in the ozone layer bigger rather than polluting the oceans.
Well, maybe, but that's. I don't
want to sound glib about this. I'm just trying to work out why this reaction is excessive.
Well, it's quite a big reaction as well. It's 8.5% or so. And we think that the environmental damage is, as we look at it at the moment, likely to be relatively small, and that's been backed up by some Scottish ministerial executives. That it's not on the same scale as was happened in Macondo, and also there's a relatively small loss of production. So that's the other way of looking at this. Yep. You could say, okay, well let's leave aside the sort of big accident costs and say what's the loss of production, and our back of envelope calculations so that we'll lose some production even if this thing is closed for 6 months. But okay. They'll make it up. Okay,
let's quickly do these other two stories. Sharp gets an investment from Foxconn. Flat panel screens, but there's such a glut in flat panel screens. You say maybe this isn't the future for the company anyway.
Yeah, well, we just think that my colleague Wayne Arnold just thinks that maybe it's pushing on string here. Clearly, this investment will buy the Japanese a bit more time, but perhaps the market power of the Korean, Samsung in particular, in this market is so huge that perhaps they're just sort of fighting a losing battle.
And then the slightly more complicated story, TCI, the Children's Investment Fund, and their gripe about Coal India. In fact, TCI's head talked about Coal India being presided over by a, quote, board of shame. Pretty harsh words. What's behind this?
Well, it's fighting talk, isn't it? What's behind it is that Coal India is accused, and I think there's a relatively good evidence to suggest that they are doing this, is selling this coal that they have, massive coal reserves at under the market price, like 70% under the market price. Now, this company is 90% owned by the Indian government, 1% owned by TCI. I think it's the second biggest shareholder, but it does have 1%. Now, the Indian government seems to be suggesting, look, the whole economy here is benefiting from the fact that it has access to cheap supplies of coal, so we want to keep the price on it. TCI is saying, look, this is a company, you have a fiduciary duty to your shareholders to maximise or at least optimise profits. Now, if you're selling your coal at a 70% discount, you're not doing that.
Yep.
So it's taking an action to try and get that righted. It's fighting talk, and there is a danger here that, they'll just be at loggerheads. What we're trying to suggest is actually there is a win-win here if they can get to some kind of compromise. A win-win that actually, by increasing the profits from this coal, it might actually ease supply, promote investment into the infrastructure, because a lot of Indian companies profess that they can't get hold of this energy. At the same time, if the profits go up, the value of the company will go up, and as a 90% shareholder, it is the government of India who may benefit as well as TCI.
Okay, Robert, many thanks for that. Robert Cole. If you want to watch our US show, Breakingviews show, that's every day, 12:30 Eastern, 16:30 GMT. Of course, you can see this show and that show on the Breakingviews site and Reuters.com. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.